everyone, this is Angela. Welcome back to my reading corner and another edition of Must Have Monday. This video is going to be longer than most because instead of doing one particular book, I'm actually going to be reviewing one subject and talking about all the books that Usborne has to offer. The reason that I'm doing this is because maybe you know you want to get a book that covers XYZ, but you don't know which one to get, which one would be best for your child or for your household. And so I'm going to go through these books. And in doing so, even though it's about this subject, usually it'll give you a good overview of what that type of book is. So you can say, okay, I like that. What other subjects are in that series? So the subject I'm going to be going over is the human body. The reason I chose this is because the human body books are a lot of fun and are really cool. But they also go into some things that maybe your child isn't ready to learn, mainly the reproductive system. So in my review, I'm going to be talking about if or if not a particular book talks about the reproductive system, making babies being born, etc., how in-depth they go, and so that way you can make the more informed decision on what book is right for you. I'm going to start with the younger books and move up. So our first is in the ages range 3 to 5, the Usborne Look Inside Your Body. Look Inside books are a very thick board book that is a flat book. So this particular book goes through eating food, staying alive, your bones and muscles, growing and healing, your senses, and your brain. And it has lots of flaps for them to lift and explore and get to know their body as well. The one mention that they make is growing and healing is that before it's born, a baby grows inside its mother. You flip it, it shows some illustrated fetuses, and at 9 months, it's ready to be born. So it's a very introductory book into science and the science of their body, but it's a lot of fun. The next book is the Flip Fat Body book. I recommend this one a little bit older on the 3 to 5 side because of this one thing. It's a flat book. So they have flaps for them to read and lift, but the pages are standard pages, so they're easier ripped than the thicker board books. So that's one thing to think about. One thing I think is really cool about this book is it's broken down into sections, 3 sections actually. The first section being what happens to your food. And so you go to the very end, what happens to your food, and there's a quiz. So definitely for the older kids so they can quiz themselves or you can quiz them. How do your senses work is the second section, and the third is about how are babies made. So this one definitely goes into a little bit more detail as far as how babies are made. It has some illustrations of some sperm and egg and connecting. It talks about morning sickness and fatigue during pregnancy. It goes through the entire pregnancy. And then at the very end, when the mom is ready, or when the baby is ready, the baby squeezes out of the opening between the mother's legs. That's as far into it as it goes birth-wise, but it does mention it. So this is a Flip Fat Body book. The Big Book of the Body is next. The Big Book is a really popular series. There's lots of different subjects in this series. I like this one because it has this really cool, depending on the size of your kid, it could be a full-size skeleton. You flip it over, it's the muscular system. So they go through and they learn about their bones and their muscles. They learn about how they eat, how food is digested, their circulatory system, their brain, all kinds of things. It's all illustrations, and some pretty childish illustrations too, but they're just all illustrations, your senses. It does go into starting life right here. It shows a little womb, an illustrated sperm and egg, how a little bit about how babies grow, but the big book of the body. Last in the section is the lift the flap questions and answers about your body. This one is a lot of fun because instead of being sectioned by circulatory, muscles, bones, etc., it's sectioned into when, where, how, why, what, who, and yes or no questions. So they come over here and how do I smell things? We'll lift this flap and it'll tell you. Or why do I need to breathe? And it'll tell you about your lungs. Who is the fastest person ever? And then it talks about Usain Bolt. So it's a little bit of history in there as well. And the cool thing about this one is these are questions that they can't answer because it's about them. When did you learn to walk? What was your first word? So these are really cool questions that they can talk to you about, and it's a conversation starter for you guys. It's also internet referenced, so if you go, it'll tell you how to get on the website and find more questions that they can ask and answer. No reproduction in Lift the Flap questions and answers. Shine a Light the Human Body is a really fun book. It's a great introduction, but that's really all it is an introduction. It doesn't get into very much science about it. It talks about your senses, it talks about your teeth, it talks about your bladder and your, where your water goes, but it's not very scientific. The most on reproduction wise is the baby grows in your mom's tummy. But it's a super fun book for your kids to read anyway. These next sections are for the older kids, 6, 7 plus. See Inside Your Body is a step up from Look Inside Your Body. It's a Lift the Flap book, but this one has a little bit more information, a little bit smaller words, more facts on the page, and definitely more flaps to lift. And this one actually, unlike Look Inside Your Body, it doesn't even mention pregnancy or reproduction at all. It just goes through all your different systems, your senses, etc. But it's a lot of fun, and it's a great book to have. Your Body is one of the Usborne beginner books. This one, it starts getting more scientific in its photos. Instead of just being illustrations, it's actual true pictures, brain scans, etc. It has a table of contents at the front. It has a index and glossary at the back. Also has websites to visit so they can get more information. And it does not mention any of the reproductive organs or reproduction system at all. So Your Body. The first encyclopedia of the human body. This one's a lot of fun. It has more photographs than illustrations. It goes into, this one's my favorite pages when it talks about the blood. It shows a picture of the red blood cells, white blood cells, and the placenta, or the platelets. I've been talking too much about reproduction. And it has a body words glossary at the back. It goes into germs and zooming in on germs. So it's a really cool book. Let me show you what it does have. It goes into hormones and genes, and that goes up to the babies. So it talks about making a baby, that the sperm is in the man's body and the woman has the eggs, and the sperm has to enter the woman's body in order to make a baby. And the womb starts to squeeze, and this pushes the babies out. It comes out of an opening between the mother's legs. So that's as in-depth, really, as it gets in reproduction. The Usborne Human Body Reference Book. This one almost goes backwards because it has illustrations instead of photos. But these illustrations are really, really detailed illustrations. They remind me of like the old school 1840s medical books. It does talk about specific reproductive organs, the male and woman. In the past books, they don't talk about anything about the male reproductive organs. This one does. It talks about fallopian tubes and your uterus and, you know, everything. So, it goes into the more science of it: fertilization, zygote, blastocyst, embryo, fetus, and baby. So, this one is also has an internet links and an index, a glossary. So it's a great reference book. Lastly, the complete book of the human body. This one's internet linked. It also has at the very back, one thing I like, the glossary and the index, of course. It has experiments and activities that your kids can do. It has a timeline of science as well as a who's who of science. Some facts, figures, and records. And the science that it goes into is a lot more in depth. It talks about diseases, talks about medicine, gives you a look inside your lungs, how your lungs collect oxygen. It has a lot of really cool scientific zoomed in, super magnified pictures. So it's a great book, I think. Talks about how the brain works and your neurons are fired, all the different senses that you could, all the different senses and systems. Reproduction is in the body changes section. Conception and birth. I think it's a really cool picture, but it has an actual photo of a egg being fertilized by sperm. So, the big thing about this one, it describes sexual intercourse. The man's main sex organ is the penis. During sex, it fits inside a woman's vagina, a tube between her legs. So it describes sexual intercourse and being born. It describes labor and going through the vagina. It actually does mention cesarean as well. So it gives a little bit more birth options, I guess. But it goes into the science of reproduction most definitely. So, but it's a really cool book. I love all of these books. I think that they're all great for the family that wants them and needs them. I know that some people don't want their kids to learn about certain things by a certain age, or maybe they want them to learn about it. And so these are the books that are the best options for you. So I hope that you have found a book about the human body that will be perfect for your children and will add it to your library at home. If you have any questions about them, though, please drop a comment, send me a message, like and share this so we can get the information out and people can make a more informed decision about their book purchases for their house. If you have any questions, any books that you want me to review, or whatever you want, just drop me a line. Thank you so much. Bye.